All right, let's start talking about that light-dependent reactions. Before we talk more about the light-dependent reactions, let's look at a part of it where we're going to see these pigments, okay? And then we're going to expand it. So talking about light, we cannot talk about a light-dependent reactions until we talk about what is a photosystem, okay? What is a photosystem? It's going to be a light capturing device, and they're going to be embedded in that thylakoid membrane. Okay, and what is it going to do? What is this photosystem going to do? It's going to absorb solar energy. Okay, it's going to absorb solar energy, and it's going to transform it to chemical energy. Okay, now I know I've said, I know you're probably confused. I said that pigments do the absorption. That's true, but you'll see that pigments are going to be found within this photosystem. Okay, so pigment molecules absorb light energy and pass it on. Okay, and again, these pigment molecules are going to be found, guess where? In the photosystem. And it will end up in the reaction center. There's a reaction center of the photosystem. Chlorophyll A, which is going to be one of those pigments, right? These chlorophyll A molecules are going to be found in the reaction center. And they're going to have a very special role. This chlorophyll A, specific chlorophyll A in the photosystem, when the energy is going to hit, it's going to excite the electrons. And we'll talk about this electron in a second. Remember, these electrons come from the water, okay? But the energy will hit and excite the electrons in the chlorophyll A molecule. These electrons get so excited because they're so full of energy, okay? They're so excited, full of energy, that takes them to an even higher state due to that energy. But then these electrons that are highly energized are going to leave, okay? And then these electrons then will get passed on to the electron carriers. For example, NADPH, okay? So NADPH is going to be carrying high or energized electrons to the next phase, to the cycle, okay, to the light independent reactions. Okay, so now let's look at my picture over here. Okay, and we know what the chloroplasts look like, and I told you the thylakoids here. So this is a thylakoid, is a thylakoid membrane. This is the thylakoid membrane. Okay, that's the thylakoid membrane, the whole thing. And in here, we're going to see something called a photosystem. Okay, this is a photosystem. Now, what's in the photosystem? Well, in the photosystem, what do you have? You have pigment molecules, okay, and then you have a reaction center. So these two are part of the photosystem. In the reaction center, what do you have? You have a reaction center, chlorophyll A, okay, with electron. This electron started from the water, and a primary electron acceptor. Okay, primary electron acceptor. He's going to accept the electron. That's what he does. Accepts an electron from chlorophyll A, which then will go into another set of carriers, which we'll talk about later. So now, what happens? Let me do this with a different color. Actually, pause it, because I'm going to erase this part. Okay, pause it right now. Right now is a good time to pause it. Let's follow the flow of energy. What? Let me see with a different color. Let me do blue. Actually, let me do black for better contrast. Okay, what did we say? Where does the energy come from? The energy comes from light, right? Particles of light called photons, which travel as wavelengths. Okay, that's why you see the wiggly thing here. So photon, this energy, this wavelength, is going to be able to hit a pigment. This is a pigment. Okay, this is a pigment. These pigments are going to be passing the energy from one pigment to another. And that's what you see with the yellow arrows here. This energy has been transferred from one pigment to another pigment, to another pigment, to another pigment, to another pigment, until this energy arrives at the reaction center at the chlorophyll A. This chlorophyll A molecule here, okay, is gonna have an electron, and the electron is gonna get really energized because where does the energy come from? How are we energizing this electron? From this energy, okay, that got accepted by pigment molecules, and these pigment molecules passes energy from one molecule to another molecule to another molecule until this energy is transferred to this electron in the chlorophyll A. And then this electron jumps. It's so excited, like you right now, that it jumps, okay, jumps into the primary electron acceptor. And from here, this electron is going to go somewhere else. Okay, so that's pretty much all you need to know about photosystem. Photosystem has pigments and it has proteins, it has other molecules, right, that make it a great molecule to be able to absorb energy. Okay, this is going to be the light-dependent reactions. And don't get too confused. I'm going to try to go this step by step. Okay, it is a longer process, but you've seen this process before in cellular respiration. This is going to be the electron transport chain, which you know what that means, right? Really quick summary. A bunch of electrons are being passed on from one molecule to another. The energy of the electron, okay, is going to be used, okay, to pump hydrogen ions from a lower to a higher concentration. And then these hydrogen ions are going to leave via a protein called ATP synthase, okay, to make ATP. That's it. Simple as that. Now, let's go step by step. We start with the light. Light energy, usually come up with this photosystem. This is usually called photosystem 2. This is usually called photosystem 1 because not because of the order, but because of how they were discovered. But that's not very important for our purposes. I just want you to know what a photosystem looks like, what's inside a bunch of pigments, and how this works as a team. Okay, so light energy hits the photosystem. What is in the photosystem? A bunch of pigments that absorb the light, right? And this light is going to be sent to the electron. Now, give me 1 second. Where is this electron coming from? Okay, where is the electron coming from? In the chlorophyll, where is the electron coming from? Well, from water. Remember we said water is very important. Water is going to be the electron donor. As water is used, what's going to happen is there's going to be an enzyme that's going to be able to break it apart, water into, for example, one water molecule is broken apart into 2 electrons, 2 hydrogen ions, because remember, a hydrogen atom is made of a proton, hydrogen ion, and 2 electrons, right? And when you see here half, is because half O2, that means 1 atom of oxygen, okay? But in reality, what happens is this oxygen atom will find another oxygen atom, come together, make O2, and make oxygen. Okay. Don't need to go into much detail. Just know that water is the electron donor. Is going to be donating the electrons, and from this we'll be getting oxygen. Okay. Now the electrons. What's going to happen to the electrons? The electrons are going to be jumping into the photosystem, right? Where the chlorophyll A molecule is. That electron is going to get energized. It's going to get energized. Why? Because of the light, right? Because of these pigments in photosystem that grab the light, pass it on to the electron. Now what happens to the electron? And here you see in yellow a pathway of this electron. This electron is going to go through a electron transport chain. And again, what is an electron transport chain? This looks a little bit different from the one we talked about in cell respiration, but it's pretty much the same concept, okay? The electron is going to be passed. Electron goes from one carrier to another carrier to another carrier, okay? And the energy of the electron is going to be used to do what? And let's just say that this is going to be 3, okay? The jumping of electrons. Then what? For hydrogen ions, the energy of the electrons are used so we can pump hydrogen ions from a lower concentration to a higher concentration area, okay, to pump hydrogen ions into an area of higher concentration, building up a hydrogen pump, right? There's a lot more hydrogens inside, which means that there is a lot, so this is H. This is not H for a hydrogen atom, by the way. Let me just make this a little more clear, okay? Higher concentration of hydrogen ions. Lower concentration of hydrogen ions. So we're pumping, so we're using the energy of the electrons to pump hydrogen ions from an area of low concentration to high concentration. And you know that in order to go from low to high, we need some energy for that. The electron provides that energy. And now we end up with a lot of hydrogen ions here, right? Now the hydrogen ions, the pump over here, where we are building up this pump of hydrogen ions, is going to happen inside of the thylakoid, in the thylakoid space. Okay, if you really know your cell respiration, you know this looks a little bit different. It's kind of upside down as cell respiration, but it's still the same concept. What happens to these hydrogen ions, ladies and gents? Do they want to stay there? No, there's so much potential energy here, this part, because there's a lot of hydrogen ions. The hydrogen ions want to be able to leave, right? So they're going to take all this potential energy and they're going to come and they're going to be using this protein called ATP synthase. As hydrogen ions move from an area from high concentration to low concentration, that energy is used by ATP synthase to make ATP, okay? To grab an ATP molecule, grab a phosphate group, put them together, and make, bing, bada, boom, ATP. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'm going to put this as step number 5, okay? Pumping of hydrogen ions out, okay, from an area from high to low. And this is, this is going to go down the concentration gradient, right? So taking the energy from the inside, taking it outside, energizing ATP synthase so we can make ATP. Great. Now, one thing that's happening here, I don't know if you noticed yet, but what happens to the electron? Does matter disappear? Does matter get destroyed? No, the electron is still here, and I'm going to draw you here the electron. Let me do this maybe in yellow. I don't know, hopefully it works. The electron is here, okay? Here's the electron. So we went from, let me do it with the red just to keep consistent. It's over here, it landed here. Now the electron is tired, right? Because we just took most of that energy to pump hydrogen ions. Now what happens to the electron here? Well, the electron is gonna be dumped, okay, in another photosystem, photosystem 1. What happened in this photosystem over here? A photosystem is a photosystem. It's going to have proteins. It's going to have pigment molecules. It's going to be able to absorb energy. So now we have more energy coming in the form of waves, photons. Okay, it hits this photosystem. It charges this electron. Okay, that comes from another chlorophyll A molecule that is in that photosystem, and this electron is again going to get energized. Okay, again going to get energized, and I'm going to do this in a different color just to follow this path of this electron. This electron is then going to move and is going to go through a small little electron transport chain, which this picture doesn't show it because it's being very simplistic. But eventually this electron, okay, I'm going to put here energized now because it's being energized again. Energized. This energized electron, full of energy, is going to be able to jump into NADP, making something called NADPH. Okay, so what happens to NADP? NADP is the oxidized form. NADPH is the reduced form. What happens here? We have reduced NADP. I didn't use NADPH. right? And hopefully I wrote that right. NADPH, which has what is going to have the energized electron. When you see a hydrogen, that means it has the electrons. Does that make sense? Now these high energy electrons, and I'll do this in another color. Well, actually, before I do that, let me just do this 5. Let me do this as 6 over here, step 6. Okay. As this electron is being placed on NADPH, another electron carrier, what happens now? Well, now we can see the products of the light-dependent reactions. We have NADPH, we have ATP, and these two are going to be flowing into the Calvin cycle. NADPH is going to be carrying the electrons, the high energy electrons, so we can put them in, so we can make this glucose molecule. ATP is going to be used as energy source to make the glucose molecule. So far, so good. We still don't see any carbon dioxide. That's going to happen in the Calvin cycle. But the products or the light-dependent reactions are NADPH and ATP. And what else? And oxygen. But we already did the oxygen. Oxygen is done, produced, goes away. Does that make sense? So those are going to be like kind of the main three results of the light-dependent reactions. And if you don't believe me, here, light reactions, telecom membrane, what goes in, water and light, what goes out, what is produced, produced. We make oxygen, we NADPH, and we make ATP. And remember, these are the products, okay, of the light reactions only. One more slide that I want to show you just to see how this energy thing goes. And this is the same thing I showed you before. It just looks a little bit different. It's just summarizing things, okay? And I'm just going to use my little arrow, okay? Same thing. Water, okay, it's going to get split. As I showed you before, it's gonna H2O. There's an enzyme that breaks up water and makes it into 2 hydrogen ions, 2 electrons, right? 2 electrons and 2 hydrogen ions make 2 hydrogen atoms, right? And have a molecule of oxygen. Half because it's only 1 oxygen atom. But 1 oxygen atom is gonna find another oxygen atom, and they're gonna come together and make O2. So this is how we make oxygen. And like I said in the beginning, water is going to be the electron donor. These electrons are going to be ending up in the photosystem, okay? The light energy is going to be able to hit, light is going to hit this photosystem, is going to energize this electron, okay? So this picture is showing you the electron, the energy of these electrons. This energy, this electron that started in the water, that then became part of the photosystem here in the chlorophyll A molecule, is now going to be excited, very excited. It's going to leave the photosystem. It's going to end up in the primary electron acceptor. The energy now of this electron, because remember, it's so excited, it has a lot of energy, this electron. The energy is going to be used, it's going to be extracted little by little as this electron jumps from one carrier to another to make ATP. And that is one of the products of the light-dependent reactions, okay, ATP. This electron doesn't die, doesn't disappear, it stays there, but it's very weak. It's very tired, took away all the energy, right? It's like you around 11 o'clock p.m., okay? But what happens to this electron? Well, let's put more energy into it, okay? And this energy, okay, this light energy is gonna energize this electron again. So this electron gets really, really excited. It's very full of energy, goes through another small little electron transport chain and ends up, okay, these 2 electrons end up in a molecule NADPH, okay, NADPH. And what happens here is NADP plus, okay, which is oxidized form, gets reduced. Reduced means it gains electrons, and that's why NADPH is the reduced form, because it has electrons. Okay, and this is what you see here in terms of the same thing. It's just with a different picture. Here's a photon of energy. So you put the energy into this electron. Electron gets very, very excited. Then we're going to be using a small electron transport chain to use the energy of the electron to make ATP. But then we're again going to power with more light This electron, we make it very excited. It goes to a higher energy state, and now we put this in a bucket, an ADPH, so we can send it to the next phase of photosynthesis.